Yeah, to another exciting installment of the Terrorisk podcast. This is episode. Oh shit! It's
Episode 69.
69.
Yeah. The dumb, most bland, overused joke. I'm glad it's here. I'm glad I'm here for it.
Shit! It's episode fucking 69.
I think I did request this before, especially since you're not getting to an episode 420 or other funny numbers.
I might take.
Good.
This.
I hope you do.
You know what? It's like it's got the same effect that journaling has. I think, and I think like years down the line, I could just watch this on the internet and be like, "What the fuck?"
Well, you just think of like, yeah, this is where I was at the time. Watch yourself get progressively higher and drunker as the episode goes on.
Yeah,
and you're like, wow, I really could go hard back then.
It is cool. Like, what if I did have kids in the future? And there's like,
yeah.
They'd be like, what were you like when you were younger? I was like, well, like this. You know,
That's true. You know, an interesting detail is that a lot of us have. You can look at photos of your parents, right? When they're young, they might not have many photos saved, but there's definitely some. Like, I've seen photos of my dad in his teens, in his 20s, 30s. Same thing with my mom.
Yeah.
For a lot of millennials, I don't know how it'll be for Zoomers. A lot of millennials like just save their digital photos on like PhotoBucket and other things like that. Websites that have since gone down.
Yeah.
Or deleted off Facebook or got banned or something. Digital. A bunch of digital technology is actually way more fragile. Or you have things on a hard drive that crashed, that breaks.
Oh, I see.
A lot of people have disappearing years, I bet. I certainly do. I barely have almost nothing saved from my teen years. Admittedly, I didn't have many real life friends, barely any, at that time, so there weren't opportunities to have photos taken anyway. And I was averse to social media for a while, so there's like a huge chunk of my life don't really have that much evidence of.
Yeah, I mean it's not the most uncommon thing in the world. But
no.
See, look, I just want to say like, yeah, it is. You're right. You know, like less and less people have like actual analog photos that they keep. You know.
Yeah.
But I will say this, despite the fact that people are opting to store it digitally, it's also easier now more than ever to print your own copies of like
that's true.
Especially like high resolution photos.
That's true.
Any inkjet printer now that you can get off Staples can actually like do the job of like. You know, what we used to have to go to like a photo, place, a shop for.
I'm sure plenty of people, will properly store it, but despite that, I suspect there a lot more people are going to have huge gaps of their life just no evidence of. Or maybe just a few things. One photo here. Plenty of people had blogs that they either deleted or the hosting site just went down. We used to be told, or at least some people used to be told, that everything on the internet was forever. Really, it's a very fragile infrastructure, and a lot of it can go down or get bought out. They have a change of policy. Some photo you had, I don't know, you saved some vaguely pornographic meme or some such thing, and your whole account gets nuked. I don't know if that's actually the best example, but, well, I guess Tumblr would be the case with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd be fine if the internet shut down.
Same. I mean, I love it. I'm addicted deeply to it in information technology, but probably do me good.
I mean, a lot of my shit would get handicapped, but honestly, though, a lot of other people, everyone else would be handicapped too. So for me, it would just be like, okay, I'll just go back to life before internet stuff.
Yeah, which is weird, remembering it, even if it was just in childhood. Zoomers and, I guess, Generation Alpha, whatever they'll end up being called, have just grown up entirely online.
Yep, I also think that technology itself is going to change. I don't think like we're gonna keep staying on this like server-based system of like, accessing like basically just binary data constantly in like huge server farms all around the world. I don't think that's sustainable. First of all, like I don't think we could keep building more and more and more servers to. But
they're pretty compact. You just have to make sure that the storage is correct. Now, one thing I'm interested in. Same topic, is given how fragile our internet infrastructure is, I look at the name Terrorisk. Hopefully we're not getting flagged for this. I'm surprised that there haven't been any kind of like attacks on internet infrastructure, like the server farms and the like. How hard would it really be to cause a massive amount of damage to them?
Well, the thing is, it's a decentralized system. That's why it would be so hard to really shut down. That's why it's like it seems like
you have to shut down the whole thing. You have to just do damage to nodes within the system.
Yeah. I mean, then you'd be shit. Then you'd be cut off from like crazy like important services that everyone fucking uses. You know, like PayPal.
Yeah.
Like if the PayPal servers got shut down, the world might literally grind to a halt.
You have some drones with explosives attached to them, and you fly them into the right server place or to an Amazon fulfillment center. And it's not like you're causing the whole system to crash. You're just putting a lot of stress on it.
Yeah. Honestly, like that's all good stuff. But what I'm been more interested in lately is power. You know, because like we're all talking about like different manifestations of energy, of light, pretty much. Like, you know, everything is powered by electricity and all that shit. And I don't know. I'm getting more interested in like figuring out what the source of what powers our entire civilization, human civilization. You know, like fossil fuels, for example.
Yeah, hydrocarbons. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like obviously not great. It's not the greatest option. Another one is nuclear, but nuclear I don't think is a perfect solution either, because nuclear creates, as much as it could power, it also creates waste that you just can never, ever, ever, ever get rid of, right?
You shoot into space. It's a small amount of waste. Like the amount of nuclear waste, like it's really a tiny amount of things, highly compacted. I'm a big nuclear proponent. Waste is not really a concern with me. My bigger concern with it is competency of maintaining it, because obviously the fail state of nuclear, it's terrible when a coal plant burns down or like has some disaster occurred. It's really bad when a nuke plant has that happen, which isn't a big issue if you have fully competent people maintaining it, supporting systems. But given the number of cascading human failures we've been seeing lately, it does make me a little bit concerned. That being said, I do love nuclear. I think it's vastly cleaner. It's hugely efficient. It feels like, frankly, we should have switched to a far more nuclear heavy system where France is like, I think a lot of France's power comes from nuclear, and they like export energy.
I also think there's like, I heard, I'm not an expert, but I think there's way more things wrong with like wind power energy, like the amount of money and the damage it does to the environment, it costs to, like, you know, it takes and all that shit. And also like electric cars, you know, from what I understand, it's not really a great solution because the amount of money and resources it takes to produce those batteries and those components, it's a net negative.
Yeah, it's a tremendous, like, with all the rare earth minerals, all the cost and time involved in getting those things up and running is difficult. Wind can be finicky and also limited output. Yeah, but wind is not as green as it looks at first glance.
Yeah. And also, did you know that did you hear about like there's like multiple conspiracy theories of like people throughout history having discovered
like what, water-powered cars, those kind of things?
Perpetual energy.
Yeah, I'm skeptical of those.
Well, I mean, I think, yeah, I'm skeptical of anything that's like saying like, oh, you know, like it's just using pure movement and counterweights, we could create like infinite energy. And I don't think it's really about like fucking, I don't think it's about generating from a source like infinite energy. I think it's more like tapping into something that we can't really, for whatever reason, we just don't perceive it right now, or like most.
Yeah, it's some phenomena is not what they think it. How can I put this? It's like it's accidentally touching upon something that they haven't properly discovered.
I think that there is probably a spectrum or a frequency or whatever, like a bandwidth of energy that, like, you know, that kind of.
I mean, look, if you have a perpetual motion machine but it only works a week out of the year, it's not very useful.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, so I don't think it's really perpetual. It's I don't think the answer is going to be perpetual energy. I think it does have something to do with like electromagnetism, you know, because like that's, first of all, that's like that's just an inherent feature of our planet, of our environment,
the universe.
There is an electromagnetic current. We know this just from like having the fact that our planet spins on an axis and there's two poles, and you know the energy it generates, you know, pretty much like generates a certain kind of magnetism. That's electromagnetic energy. And also, if you look at like, like the human body, right? The human body is like mostly water. Water is a perfect conductor of electricity. And if you look at like everything that actually like makes things move in our body, it's all electric. It's all done through like electricity. And also, like it's all done in like a rhythmic current of like, like a rhythmic flow of like operations pretty much. So therefore you could say it's like it's a vibration. Everyone has their own frequency of vibration because that's how your body literally functions. That's a spark. It's not like a spark of electricity. It's a spark of vibration. That's just like, how like, okay, like if you look at a wristwatch, like that little tiny crystal acts as like the perfect element for the watch to just work for a really, really long time as long as it has like a basic power source. But it's capable of like facilitating perfect vibratory responses. That's how it makes watches work. So if you look at how like even the slightest vibratory frequency or the slightest element that's vibrating at a specific frequency can literally make a whole complex machine like a watch work. So who's to say like the human body's any different? If anything, it's probably more reflective of that.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, a watch is relatively low energy consumption, very low energy consumption. But yes, that point taken.
Yeah. I mean, like the energy source aside, like, that's like when we transmute raw elements, like when we eat food, we convert that food into nutrients that build up our physical body. Yeah, that makes sense. But none of that really determines like what keeps it moving, because like there's like people that like, you could have a completely healthy body, but if it's a dead body, it's a dead body.
Yes. Well, I mean, there's a biological failure that causes death,
or imagine constructing a whole human body from the cell down to the cellular level, from the ground up, but there's nothing but it's still inanimate, right?
Yeah, I don't know if you could create life. What is that as a person? Was there a soul? Is there something some spark of life it's lacking?
Well, I think that soul is a specific frequency of vibration. It's like yeah, I don't know. This is beyond my own comprehension, but that's kind of what I'm like intuiting here. I'm intuiting like a certain vibratory frequency that's a small vibration that causes like a chain reaction throughout your physical form, and that's really the engine of your entire life and your consciousness and all that shit.
People do talk about vibes a lot.
Exactly. Yo, I mean, you think that comes out of
cultural
nowhere?
Vibe? No, it doesn't. Yeah, that's a rhythm of the night. Rhythm of whatever is going on in the culture at large. Or
well, that shit comes from like new age shit, which also stole a lot of shit from like yogi culture, which stole a lot of shit. But it all goes back to like, it all follows a kind of similar lineage with the idea, a basic concept of like a frequency of vibration stays intact that just gets passes down. And like that kind of could also refer to like reincarnation. Reincarnation could also be like a system of just recycling your specific frequency, your soul frequency, your own frequency into one body to the next. Also, like, you look at the moon, and if there is something that's going to affect our, frequency of vibrations more than anything, it's going to be the moon, because what does moon do? It changes like the gravitational dynamic, in relative to where it's at right now, compared to where we are on the earth and shit.
Rhythm varies depending on the person. But rhythm does seem very natural and innate. And it's curious where that's coming from. Is it from being an infant within your mother's womb, hearing her heartbeat?
No, I think that's determined by the nature of reality. I think it's literally a law of nature. I think rhythm, first of all, the only constant is change. All right, let's establish that. There's no such thing as a fully static thing. Everything's always moving from one state to another. That's one. Another law, I do think that every single thing on this in our reality has an opposite, has a polarity to it. So if we can deduce that, if we can agree that everything the only constant is change. Everything has a polarity in terms of states. So what does that really tell you? That tells you that everything that we see is just like a process of things moving from one state to the other. Everything from the things we're touching, to things we're consuming, to our own bodies, to our own emotional states, to culture, to everything. Everything is just a rhythmic motion between like one state to the other. It's a pendulum, and that's literally what dictates our whole state. It's all pendulum. It's all rhythmic shifts between polar ends, just in different degrees. And the frequency is how fast that pendulum is moving. Like, are you a person that just stays like way too long in the negativity before you ultimately swing in the positivity and spend way too long there before you inevitably crash? Or are you the kind of person who like goes back and forth? Or are you like more of a person like a master where you're not just stuck on one swing, where once the swing goes here you could swing upwards, you learn to negate certain swings with higher swings, so like, all right, when things are going good, I'm going to be in the material reality, I'm going to experience everything, take everything as is, and when things are bad, that's when I'm going to escape and pray and meditate. That's really what mastery is about. It's like it's not stopping this pendulum from swinging. It's as this swings, if need be, you also swing up, and if need be, you swing. It's like it's a chain of rhythms, of like shifting states. And if you can manipulate that, then well, you're controlling reality.
Yeah, I'm someone who, for a long time, I've gotten better at. Has been pretty stagnant, and I am making changes or making some shifts with that. But I tend to. Not because you're right, I can't be perfectly static, but I tend to. My pendulum tends to be swinging around the middle in like a circle, and then it like suddenly picks up a little bit one way or the other.
Yeah, so let's talk about frequencies, right? So when
Yeah.
we literally talk about the pendulum, the swing, it's the frequency at which it swings. So the higher the frequency, the faster it's going to swing. Now, what keeps us in like lower frequencies? Well, I think it's negative emotions, negativity, and you could even like spell this. You could even like kind of lay this out and how it like manifests in reality. When you're in negative states of emotion, when you're scared, anxious. First of all, I think those sensations and those states exist for a reason. When we're animals in this environment, in a hostile natural environment, we need those emotions because that's how we survive.
Yeah.
Like if a lion's chasing us, like we're gonna have to get stressed out. That's the only way we fucking survive. So it's like that's why that's there. But it's when lions are no longer trying to eat us and we have time to reflect on our surroundings and on our own existence and our consciousness and all that shit. That's when we start raising, when things are going great, when things are positive, when things are comfortable, when it's like when we're not like worried about if we're going to starve, we're not worried about this other tribe trying to kill us, we're not worried about this, then we're vibrating at a higher frequency. Then we start like getting closer to our tribe mates. Then we start like falling in love and all that shit. Those are high vibratory states.
Well, to be fair, a lot of people, we live in an age of unprecedented wealth, of technology, of convenience, of ease. A lot of people are pretty miserable.
That might be an illusion, because okay, you could sit there and say like, oh yeah, we live in a prosperous, great place. Yeah, but to what end, right?
It's very directionless.
Wait, what's directionless?
At least our current modern developed world.
No, but what I'm saying is, you're saying things are great, and I agree with you. For me,
they're great, but at the same time, people are very often directionless, feeling lost, perhaps. I mean, okay, yeah, very bland statement here, but Ted Kaczynski talked about this Industrial Society and its future with his whole thing about, like, we have it basically too easy. This is a crude oversummation. We have it too easy, and we're, like, stressed in part because we don't have the normal feedback loop.
I don't think he had. Well, he probably understood what I'm about to say. Is like I think like a lot of it has to do. I don't know if this was done intentionally, but I think it has to do with our civilization. Like on a majority level, like. For the most part, culturally, we killed God. We killed religion. We got rid of religion. We took away. We lost touch with our ability to create a meta narrative for ourselves.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And that's what, despite no amount of technology or prosperous, like physical raw abundance is ever going to fix. Is ever going to complete that picture unless you get that element. And I'm not one here trying to like push one thing over the other. I see problems in all sorts of traditions, But if Christianity fills that gap, if Judaism, if it's Islam, if it's spirit, if it's New Age, you need something. You need something. If you don't have something, science proves it. You look at the lives of people who are like strictly materialists. That's like the strict way they view reality. They're fucked. They're fucked people every time.
Richard Dawkins, the warrior atheist that he was, has recently been making more statements. I can't quote him exactly on how a religious practice does seem evolutionary. It's beneficial to survival.
Yes.
And also, it provided a cohesion and strength to society. And also, he has an aversion to Islam. understandable enough reasons as an Englishman,
Yes.
that he felt the death of Christianity led it opening to, though it's less conversions than it is just the nature of immigration policy. I digress, though. It's fascinating that a man who, 20 years ago, there was the whole new atheism movement.
Yes.
How thoroughly dead that is. The
Well-
godlessness that wasn't.
You know what really threw a wrench in both like organized religion and atheism? It was a psychedelic experience. Once like regular schmucks had access, and also like regular beatnik culture heads, once guys like Aldous Huxley and like fucking Alan Watts started being approached. It's like, yo, we want you to try psychedelics because we figure if anyone should reflect on this to the public, it should be a really good writer, and B, a man of science. So they took these two guys and they were like, just take these psychedelics, tell us, your reflections. And they both pretty much talk about like a God consciousness. It's not like there's it's not really about like, submitting to God. It's understanding you are a part of God. God, you're just a small piece of the grand greater consciousness. And
Well, I feel it has a factor of submission to a greater whole.
But it's it's basically submission to yourself. Like submit to yourself. Like just let go of your ideology, let go of your politics, let go of your race, let go of your gender, whatever. All your ego manifestations and all that shit. Just identify as a soul, as an other dimensional being. Like as a soul inhabiting a body, not the body. Once you identify as like another, like a deeper being besides just your fucking physical state, an eternal being that doesn't die. If you have that, whether or not it's right, and I'm not gonna, I could probably give argue my arguments as to why I think it's correct that, we do have souls, but like, I think like if you do choose to believe in that, like it's gonna massively improve your life. It's going to massively improve your mental state, your emotional well-being.
I think the humility improves your mental state. The sense of, you're right, as you said, letting go of ego and egotistical attachments.
I mean, when I kind of tipped over that edge, for me, it wasn't God. It wasn't Jesus. It was life. All I said was, all I had to do was tell myself and really like believe my own words to myself. I was like, I'm going to trust life. I'm going to trust life. I think life knows exactly what it's doing to us, and I'm just going to trust it. I'm going to just put my faith in life. Regardless of what happens, I'm going to trust it. And like if you can sincerely do that, then everything just instantly changes for you.
Yeah, I can say it. Yes,
because you're already starting to write a more positive narrative, a grand narrative for yourself. Once you decide for yourself, it's like, first of all, I am life, but almost I'm going to trust life. Meaning, what does that mean? I'm going to trust myself. Going to trust my own intuition.
Honestly, you feel connected to other things. A lot of people are this.
You feel the oneness. Yeah, it's like everyone's
oneness, right?
Yeah.
In our modern society, I think this is like an emergent property of our material wealth and also of our focus on individual liberation, which is probably ultimately a good thing. It's way easier to fall into solipsism, the feeling that only you matter, or only you. More importantly, only you exist.
Well, that's the most evil part. Is like the service to self. Yeah, it's the opposite.
Our lives are objectively better, except for that connection and community, which previously economic, material deprivation, necessity.
Well, that's all built on control. It's like, I need to control, the desire to control and the desire to like ascend. Those are You need both. I mean, I don't think service to self is bad. I just think it has to be like 51% service to others, 49% service to self.
51% service to others.
You just need that 1%, tip over, and you're good. Karmically,
that sounds actually pretty good. Actually, just being slightly more selfless.
Yes, and I think that's all you need to do. If you could live a life where 49% of it is spent selfishly and that 51% is spent selflessly, you're good.
You have a net impact, and you're not giving too much of yourself away.
Yep.
You're not.
Yep.
Right. I gotta get behind that.
Yep. And I really think that's the way. Like it's 49% service to self, 51% service to others.
Pretty good ruling, actually.
I didn't make it up. I mean, it's probably comes from like long line of traditions, but I think that's what it's like if you could do that, you're in a pretty good process at that point.
Yeah.
And it's like, honestly, service to others, at the end of the day, if you look at it, if you look at it the right way, service to others is ultimately service to self. If you feel that connectedness with everybody, it's like, I'm just a soul, you're just a soul, everyone's just a soul that's all connected to this grand consciousness that we all go back to after we die, and that's where we come from. If you look at it that way, then you could look at it as like, every time I help a person, I'm really just helping myself.
Yeah.
Every time I hurt a person, I'm really just hurting myself.
Yeah, and being 49% selfish allows you to not throw your pearls before swine, not be too self-sacrificing.
Yep.
To still be considerate of you
honor your
closer associates.
You honor your feelings, you honor your intuition, you honor your own heart, like
without giving out too much, without giving away too much, without being self-defeating.
Also, like, I do think even the most gullible people still have like instincts or instances where they're like, I shouldn't be here, should I?
Yeah.
I think even those people have like that kind of instinct,
Part of the broader human experience.
Yeah. So yeah, this is okay, so like the more fun stuff is like, all right, so let's say you understand these dynamics. Now, like, how do you make it work for you? Like, there's a lot of tricks. And not just like in a modern like context. I mean, like throughout history, there have been many throughout all the world. Even like you had like the Masons, the Freemasons.
Yeah, Freemasons
of the Western world. You have like more darker stuff like Knights of Malta and the Knights Templar. You had like,
well, I don't know if it's darker, but continue.
Oh, the Vatican. The Vatican, for example, that's another.
It has issues, but
they're very, very. They're like neck deep into occult bullshit. Like,
yes.
It's insane. It's insane the kind of shit that they can do. First of all, the kind of shit that they have hidden away. I mean, I don't know if you actually believe in like the paranormal elements of sacred relics, but they do have sacred relics. Like,
yeah, true.
They have some shit, and like
it's a very complex, advanced bureaucracy that's been around for a long time.
And even if I may not believe a relic, like, can like telepathically lift objects by like whatever split literal seas. What I do think is the cultural significance or impact or its place in history of a certain artifact or a relic, that automatically causes like psychic ripples of change throughout all the people that it comes contact with. It's like you put something before a person and like, what the fuck is that? And you tell them, well, this is a piece of metal that like tore through Jesus Christ's side. And suddenly it's like, whoa, like suddenly.
Well, to be fair, I know what you mean. A lot of relics are obviously body parts of saints or the like.
Oh yeah, this is what's his name's fucking umbilical cord. Like
they do a lot of that kind
like
of
Alexander the Great's foreskin.
Right. Well, he would not have been circumcised as a Greek. It would be like there was actually, I know in the Middle Ages or perhaps early modern era, there's at least 2 churches that claim to have Jesus's foreskin.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think they had some dispute over it. I don't know the exact proceedings of if it was legal or.
I'll just give me that and eat it.
Yeah. I don't even know how. Well, I guess you probably could find a way to preserve it. Yeah, you could preserve it.
Imagine eating the foreskin of Christ. What do you think would happen to you?
Maybe like an immediate cure to all of your ailments, but no. If you were circumcised, you regrow your foreskin.
Oh, that's great. That's a good one. And then God's like, see, now you're blessed with a second opportunity to fulfill your covenant. So not only do you get circumcised once, but you get to do it again. That is my gift to
nice. You're just doubly invested in the covenant. I like that.
Yeah, it's a blessing to invest in the covenant. So it's like God's giving you another opportunity to, that's like the fucked up part of God's will. It's like, the people living the shittiest lives are the most blessed because they have the most opportunities to do good.
Yeah.
Like they have the easiest opportunities to do good. Just turn the other cheek, and you're already blessed. You're already a blessed being. I thought that was this kind of sounds like a scam, if anything. It's like,
it had that quality for sure with indulgences and with corruption of the medieval church,
it's like,
which Protestants have obviously an aversion to, and then years of European religious wars, which admittedly are also about other political dynamics within Europe at the time.
Yeah. Yo, if you could read or look at or hold or touch any lost historical artifact or place, like go there, where would you go?
Oh, I would love to see one of, I don't even know what they'd be called, those prehistoric cities
like
large
Flintstone
events.
cities.
Yeah, exactly. I was talking about this earlier before the podcast.
I'd want to see the Library of Alexandria.
That'd be cool. seeing some pre-Sumer civilization or city, which is to say, I don't know, 10,000 years ago.
You ever heard of the Emerald Tablets?
No. Is this like Akashic tablets or Akashic records? Excuse me.
The Emerald Tablets are like the basically the source of all like alchemical traditions.
Ah, intriguing.
So historically there was supposedly the god Hermes. You know, like the Greeks known as Hermes. Apparently in other cultures they would refer to this same god as like other names, but he's known, I think, to the Egyptians as Hermes Trismegistus.
Mm-hmm.
And he was also the Greek god known as Hermes. And this was the guy who, like, remember how we were talking about before, like even ancient Egyptians had ancient Egyptians?
Yeah. There's
so
predecessor civilizations.
So we're talking about like a guy, Hermes Trismegistus, who existed in the pre-ancient civilizations.
Yeah.
And this guy apparently knew the secret to alchemy, like of all reality, of like manipulating the whole entire universe, and the secret of like the nature of all things. And and also like what's cool is like the theory goes, or whatever you want to call it, that Hermes had like disciples, and he taught all these disciples his ways of manipulating reality, his magic, like to defy the laws of I don't want to say physics, but to defy your limitations that you have now, your physical limitations, and do insane shit by following these tenets, and like to spread these amongst your people. So they went out. Some went east, some went to like the Americas, some went, and some traveled all around. But Hermes. So basically, what these tablets are saying is like they're pretty much alluding to this idea that. It's what modern alchemy or contemporary alchemy would like refer to as like the laws of the principles of alchemy, or the hermetic principles. And they would tell you that like the first principle is that everything is mental.
Yeah.
Everything starts like everything is just a holographic projection of thought, of consciousness. No matter whether it's your consciousness or a grand consciousness, or like whatever it is, it's everything we see here, everything we're interacting with is all just a holographic projection of consciousness. And then it deals into like polarity, like everything has like opposites. No matter what we're talking about, everything has opposites, and nothing stays in a single polar end. It's always constantly moving between them. It also talks about how everything is gendered. Everything has a masculine principle and a feminine principle. It's not like one is one or the other. It's everything has both a masculine and a feminine principle. And but I think like when people think about alchemy, they scoff, because apparently what they're thinking is like, oh yeah, you're telling me I could take a lump of lead and turn it into gold. I don't think that's really what it is. It's supposed to be symbolic or metaphorical, or I don't know, maybe you want to call it like an archetypical description, but I think what they're talking about is the process of transmuting yourself from a third dimensional consciousness, where all you're thinking through, or you're just basically perceiving life through your ego, and you're living to basically just like accommodate and appease your animal desires, whether it's because you're horny, hungry, you want to get high, you want to make money, you want to feel good, you want to feel better, you want to, all that shit. Like that's how we're pretty much all born, and that's like kind of like what we're all conditioned into. But if you're able to break out of that, if you're able to kind of like reach a state where it's like, it's not about me. And like people have done this throughout history. You have like I don't know, like radicals who like sacrificed themselves, like martyrs. You have Buddhist monks who like became ascended and have forsaken all earthly desires. You got like you got all sorts of people who did shit like this. And so I think like that's what alchemy was supposedly referring to when they discussed transmutation. I mean, because when you read like any books about alchemy, like the original text, like the oldest known text, they don't talk about doing these stupid fucking rituals with like turning like a bunch of junk into something else. No, they're talking about like the nature of reality. They're talking they're talking beyond just the material. It's the metaphysical. It's literally the foundations for like what we call like metaphysical science.
Yeah. Or the internal alchemy of China, with people ingesting mercury and eating a few grains of rice to reach enlightenment.
Okay, so that's the same thing. When you look at like Hermeticism, that's what I'm saying. It's like
Contained within
that's one of the Hermetic principles. It's as above, so below, as within, so without. It's basically saying everything that is reflected from the lower dimensions will be reflected in your higher dimensional state, and everything reflected in your higher dimensional state will be reflected in your lower dimensional state, and vice versa. It's like it's this constant thing. It's like and if you look at like hard science, you could look at things like quantum entanglement. Like such phenomena actually do happen in the world where things can become entangled on a quantum level. We're not sure how to like specifically make it happen for everything yet, but we do know it is an actual dynamic of nature. So like if you look at things like quantum entanglement, then you could also imagine things like entangling different interdimensional states of yourself, your spirit body, your energy body, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But even down to the micro level, like when you look at acupuncture, or when you look at like what yogis do with their mudras, their hand mudras. I mean, it's like that comes from this idea or this concept of like ancient like Hinduism or whatever, or Buddhism, where like your hands are like a microcosm of the universe, of all like all layers of the universe, of space and time, and like the elements. And basically, if you're able to stimulate certain things with certain intentions of the mind, then you're able to use that and, I don't know, I guess manifest things, alter your state, reach a different state, change the dimension or change the timeline you're going into, and all that shit. Like, which makes sense. Like, if you believe in like parallel timelines, every decision you make is separating into a different timeline, right? So
Yes.
What if you're like, oh, I'm so angry, I'm fucking pissed right now, I'm gonna do something stupid, and then you're like, wait, do the mudras, and then you do like the 9 seals of the Kuji, and if you know what each one, and by the time you get, you're calm, and you are suddenly in a new reality where you're not pissed off, and you just completely for all you know, you could have gotten drunk, went out driving, and like killed somebody, just because if you were upset, but because you were able to take an active, proactive step and do your mudras that puts you in a different state, you've literally changed your timeline. So it's like those things are very powerful. I do believe that, like in a metaphysical sense, like. Just the ability to willfully change your emotional state into something like that was bad to something better, that is everything. That is seriously like going to, if you could truly do that, like willfully at any given time, your life is always going to be better, period. So I figured that's what you were saying, when it comes to like the inner entanglement.
Yes, but also just like the practices of Chinese alchemists and like Chinese traditional medicine.
Yeah.
I was joking about that's serious. Drinking mercury, I think getting mercury poisoning. Yeah. But it's a fascinating form of, or an attempt at, that kind of hermeticism.
I mean, another thing, like, yeah, I think a lot of it, it's really just about like just letting emergent phenomena give you the answers.
Yeah.
Because if you believe in the principle of like as above, so below, any minor emergent phenomena that you just observe, don't willfully try to change, don't willfully try to make happen. You just sit there, you observe that phenomenon.
Yeah.
Whether it's like observing how the tea leaves get arranged at the bottom of your cup, or whether it's observing how the bones fall when they're tossed by elements, when you just look at like what cards are drawn when you shuffle them randomly. It's like those emergent phenomena. You could either look at it as like rapidly rippling it out instantly into like crazy changes, or you could look at it as like just entangled outcomes of the present and the future,
Yes. Forgive me, I don't have more to add to that.
Oh no, I mean I'm just kind of.
We don't need to repel from each other and like.
No, I'm just kind of fucking I have been learning a lot of this like recently.
I noticed it's been a recent interest of yours.
I mean, what would you? But I wouldn't call it like, I'm not into the occult because I don't believe these things should be hidden.
Yeah.
I think it's actually
You're right.
wrong.
Occult means hidden knowledge, all that. Yeah.
I don't think this should be hidden. I think it should be.
This connects to the earlier bit about information technologies and their dissemination of knowledge.
Yes. That's what I was saying before. How like I think technology is like really, really kind of adding fuel to mass raised consciousness of like the human populace. Because if everyone's connected to the internet, it's only a matter of time. Like, I don't know, there's probably some scientist law out there that states, yeah, if you give enough people access to the internet, a bunch of people are going to eventually find like new age shit, spiritual shit, Buddhist shit.
Well, that's kind of like a mimetic An interconnected world does lead to homogenization in a way, including positive ones.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
the spreading and it sounds so lame saying it, but certain memes associated with it. And everyone's learning English. English, I guess, is already the dominant language in the world.
So like,
Imagine a world where English is the only language anyone speaks except hobbyists. Or maybe not China, whatever. But I mean, like India, they all speak English.
I don't think that would be a bad thing.
I don't either. It's a bit sad, but I also don't think it's a bad thing.
I actually think what would be awesome is if everyone spoke one language. I don't care what language it is, but if everyone spoke one language, and eventually we get to a point where we stop needing language, which makes sense. That honestly does make a lot of sense. I think if the more people, like even doing something as simple
Once
as
every single person in the world is a native English speaker, we'll immediately have telepathy.
exactly.
That's a fun idea. I like that.
Because you only with an English speaker can you, well, you could do this with like other people who don't speak your language, but even with an English speaker you could kind of like give each other the gestures that imply words, you know?
Yeah,
Like
you
this
do
means what?
You do
Like-
that more when speaking to people who don't speak the same language as you. Sorry, I was moving my mic away from my face.
But that also makes it all the more potent, you know, the idea.
Yeah.
Are you about to say
Yes. If everywhere in the world is America, which is what it feels like it's shaping up to be.
I mean, look, it's not even like, I love culture, don't get me wrong, but I don't think culture is our friend. I don't think culture is really all that like good for us as
Interesting.
humans. I think it adds richness, I think it adds plenty of stimulation. But I think culture has done more to harm than to actually provide.
Elaborate.
Actually, no, I shouldn't say that. I think culture, naturally occurring culture, is benign. But when culture becomes manipulated and exploited and altered in a way, because it's so powerful, culture is powerful, extremely, extremely powerful, and it's extremely capable in like altering the course of like the development of human society, development of human thought patterns, development of human behavior. But I think it's fascinating how like no matter how like discombobulated, no matter how like diluted things get, it always still just like slingshots all the way back to like the original, like the basics of the basics, you know?
Well, I mean, the basic human animal hasn't changed that much.
Oh, it hasn't?
I mean, yes, actually, we have changed a bunch, but there's a basic human framework that leads it to come back to those things in certain ways.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's because it's once humans discover, well, it's once it became apparent that humans were the only animal on this entire planet that was able to conjure something in their minds and make it into a physical reality object or a tangible thing. You know, humans are the only animal on the planet that's really capable of doing it as well as we can do. You know, like there's no other animal that could like just
Comparable, yeah. You do see other animals that are very intelligent up to the point of tool usage, having clear personality, existing effectively as different, animals, but...
I mean, you could look at it as like just give any animal opposable thumbs and you'll be surprised at what the fuck it can do.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, you see things with other high dexterity animals. You see elephants with their trunks being highly functioning. But yeah, I mean, being able to throw things, our general manual dexterity, language, and high social formation led to such an abrupt shift.
But I think
One
for the
could
most
imagine
part,
a world without humans, where elephants, for instance, become the dominant species on the planet.
well, at the same time, like in a lot of other ways, I think humans are extremely alien to this planet too, because like compared to every other animal, it's almost like we just don't belong on Earth. It's
How
like,
do you mean? We're connected very clearly to other great apes.
I mean, yeah, but even compared to apes, there's elements about humans compared to apes that make us like less and less suited to Earth compared to them. For example, we're like the only animal on Earth apparently that gets fucking sunburned. No other animal gets sunburned.
Other animals get sunburned.
No, they don't.
If you move them to a different environment than their natural one.
No, I don't think they get sunburned.
Do you want? Isn't this one of the reasons why polar bears have black skin under their white fur? Is that exposure to sunlight in the Arctic Circle leads to it?
Yeah, but they're not going to lose their fur unless it's a human that fucking shaves them. Like,
Right. But I mean, separate from the fur, the skin underneath the fur is black.
oh, so
That's an evolution to prevent sunburn.
I also know that polar bear's fur is actually it's transparent. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
white, yeah.
Sunburning isn't unique to humans. Other animals can experience it if they're moved into a very different environment than what they evolved under.
Well,
But-
I don't know. I'm pretty sure. I don't think other like humans. I don't think other animals get sunburned.
All right, fill up space. Let me look this up.
All right.
I feel
Yeah, fish apparently. I don't even birds. Like I don't think animals get sunburned. We're the only ones that experience like sunburn. Like like at just from being outside. Like yeah, if you took animals and like peeled a layer of their skin, yeah, they might get burned from the sun. But I'm saying like just existing out. Like I think humans are the only ones it happens to.
can animals get sunburns?
Do other animals get sunburned?
Yeah.
Oh,
when
animals
are
can
most
get.
at
However,
risk.
many of them have natural protection against the sun.
Yeah, exactly. Just like how we have clothing as natural protection against the sun.
Wait. Oh. No.
Yes, animals can get sunburn. However, many of them have natural protection against the sun. Seagull flying overhead, feathers provide protection. Animals with pale skin, little fur are most at risk for sunburns. A few examples are pigs, rhinos, elephants. How do they protect themselves from the sun's rays? Pigs use mud as sunscreen. Elephants throw sand on themselves and their offspring to avoid sunburn. Hippos make their own sunscreen. They secrete a rust-colored fluid that absorbs ultraviolet light. Keeps them
Okay,
clean.
but that still means they don't get sunburn because they have
They
natural,
avoid it.
They take natural steps to not. But for
We
us-
take natural steps by making clothing.
I don't think so. I don't.
Why not?
Because it's like that's not what humans do. Humans don't like naturally put dirt on themselves or roll in the mud to like avoid getting sunburned.
Probably
That's-
did before
Did
inventing
we?
those
Do you
things.
really
I bet
think-
we did. I bet
do
we
you
did.
think-
I bet if you look
That'd
at
be very.
various-
That's very interesting. Like
we definitely did. And
did
like
pre-
clothes, like a white brimmed hat and
Yeah.
long sleeves is just an adaptation, a tool using adaptation to the risk of the sun.
Maybe they did just like throw mud
Okay,
and shit
when
on
a
their
human
bodies.
wears a wide brimmed hat, like a straw hat or one of those Asian conical hats
Yeah,
that you
yeah, yeah.
own, and you're like wearing long sleeve clothing,
Yeah.
that's the human equivalent to rolling around the mud to avoid getting sunburned.
Yeah, but imagine like a proto civilization.
Easy. Yeah, I could see them coming up with other solutions or
Do you think that's
regional
what they would
ones.
have done? Like they
Yes.
would have like, oh, what do I do? Oh, I put mud on body.
Yeah. Or probably being like, I mean, you get darker, you're fine with the environment. Lighter skin is too. Fuck, what is it? Well, it's because otherwise you get vitamin D deficiency. My skin is so light because of a Northern European origin where evolution drove this level of paleness.
You know what? Melanin is really the fucking strangest. One of the strangest parts.
I don't think it's that strange.
I
It
think
makes
it's
sense.
pretty
It's like,
fucking
why?
strange.
Elaborate.
Only because of the sheer spectrum. How like vast the spectrum gets when it comes to like the different different characteristics of different like.
I don't know. Other animals can vary drastically in appearance and behavior within the same subspecies.
Maybe it's
within
because-
different subspecies.
Maybe it's because no other animal like human is so pervasive throughout the entire Earth. Like whereas
I mean, there are pests that are, but we're the dominant species on Earth. Yes. There's widespread pests, things that go along with us, have co-evolved along with us.
oh what like cockroaches?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rats and our domesticated pets, which is, say, dogs and cats and other domesticated animals.
Would you consider that like in a way, whether directly or indirectly, like are genetically engineered like?
Yeah, they are. Like, domesticated animals are an early example of genetic engineering.
They're it's all eugenics. It's all fucking.
Yeah, eugenics comes out of that. like the word race, as in referring to people, is I think related to horse racing, and like connection with like breeding. Is the domestication element to
You
it.
know what I just realized? Like we absolutely have current technology to create like perfect animals.
Yeah, we do. It's just like animal husbandry,
Yeah.
modern animal husbandry, and obviously much of the work has already been done, or we found animal replacements.
What's husbandry again? I know that's like
like
perk in
raising,
Age of Empires.
raising? Yeah. It's like when you learn how to raise horses.
Yeah.
Um,
You gotta like. What do you gotta like?
So, like,
it's,
okay,
it's mostly
yo.
keeping track of genetic lines, right? Keeping
do you know
track of
why chariots existed very early in history and then stopped existing?
why.
When we first had chariots, horses on average were smaller.
Okay.
The domesticated horse was not strong enough to be ridden by an adult male human with
Oh.
armor. They couldn't have knights in 4000 BC with like Egyptians.
But they bred those fuckers way up.
Yes, but you had multiple horses with the same wooden cart because that was a way to move fast.
Okay.
That single horse couldn't carry a soldier, but like 2 or 4 of them with a little platform was an implementation of it. And then we bred horses to be larger and larger until you have knights in heavy armor riding them around.
Okay. Yeah, so, but I also think we could, like, we also have the technology with, like, artificial insemination, like, external insemination.
And we
like,
did that by selective breeding, like introducing different ones to each other and trying to control the outcomes of them.
Yeah. And I think now we have the technology to probably, like, to take, like, evolutionary gaps and just, like, create, like, insane versions of, like, cats and dogs and shit.
Yeah, we could and we should.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, I'm very interested in it.
Yeah.
It feels
that-
like a natural step forward.
I mean, it does feel crazy. Like, imagine having, like a huge dog that's, like,
Like
awesome.
pit bulls. Oh, they're not awesome.
But it's also very smart. Like, it's extremely intelligent,
Yeah.
but also subservient. And then suddenly it's like, wait, is this? Are we doing the
All
right thing?
dogs are subservient, just in different ways, but
Well, they were bred to be.
yeah,
subservient.
exactly.
I like pit bulls. Well, I'm not like, I don't like to be one of those people that understate the dangers of pit bulls.
Right.
But I still like them. They're like crazy to me. They're like land sharks. You know, they're
Yeah,
insane.
they are. I don't care for them, but I'm not big on dogs.
Yeah, pit bulls are fucking insane. They're powerful as.
Yeah.
It's like looking at like an atomic bomb or like a jet fighter. You're like, wow, that thing is. That
Yeah,
thing
it's an
exists.
unstable IED.
Yeah. Okay, so even that I could appreciate. I could appreciate a nice like.
Yeah, I can
fucking-
understand it psychologically. I don't want to be around them, but I can understand it.
Yeah. You don't think like pit bulls have a nurturing instinct?
I don't believe that they're called the nanny dogs. This feels like our aversion to genetics and to breeding and really thinking about that is leading to a lot of people getting pit bulls they really shouldn't.
Yeah, I always
They
said,
are selectively bred, genetically engineered just by dog breeding
I always
to
said
be unsafe animals. Go on.
I always said if I got a pit bull, like I wouldn't be afraid to put it down. If I would know exactly what I would be getting into, you know. It's
Yeah.
like- and if it kills me, well, that's because I was weak. That's my fault. You know, like you know.
Fair, you can't inflict it on other people, but well, should avoid it. But yeah, for a good.
Well, that's why you got to be prepared to
You
kill
also
your.
need to be just. You know, the problem is probably like pit bulls are meant for dog fighting. We don't have enough dog fighting in this country.
Can you?
They have all
can
the.
you bring it in?
Oh, sorry.
The seat.
Oh, sorry. I was
Getting
drifting
out
away.
a shot.
Yeah.
But yeah, professional dog fighting. There's got to be a way to
Bring
make
back dog fighting and let these pitties get some energy out, and maybe they'll be attacking random people less.
it. Maybe if there was like a dog MMA, you know, like dog.
Ooh, dog MMA
dog,
is a great
dog
idea.
UFC.
Yeah, that was great.
Like if there was a way to safely allow the dogs to fight, you know.
Well, who said anything about safely?
Oh, I mean, come on, like that you can't have them kill each other.
We did for a very long time.
Yeah, but that's what people had a problem with. If you made it safe, then people wouldn't have a problem with it.
Yeah, they get their yayas out or whatever bullshit women say to describe the burst of energy of a beast they're unable to control.
Yeah, that's why they like UFC.
Do they?
Women, yeah, plenty of women love UFC. A lot
Yeah,
of
I can
people
see it.
love UFC.
That's true. That's true.
Mixed
It's very
martial arts
popular.
is like a big thing.
Sport. Yeah, I hear
It's
about way more than other sports.
it's a weird sport. I think it's a weird fucking sport because it has like really like weird geeky origins.
Yeah, it does.
But it developed into this insane fucking juggernaut industry, and it's like it's kind of crazy, and I respect it. I respect what they
Yeah.
do. I think like that kind of sport is badass, compared to like just like throwing a ball around or hitting balls with sticks
Yeah.
and shit. Like they're really just out there pummeling each other. I'm like, damn, that's crazy. I think it's highly unsafe, and I think it's like probably the most unsafe sport next to like NASCAR and shit, or being like a horse jockey.
It's safer than, I don't know, football has a lot of injuries associated with it.
No, I think the worst part about football is the overtime damage it does to you, like the long
Yeah,
damage.
which ends up being a very short time, like going senile at 40.
Oh yeah.
All the concussion, traumatic head injuries, the armor favoring heavier and heavier tactics.
Oh, I forgot someone on Facebook. I just remember this. I think Steve Brigham was like, despite making up over 40% of the dog bites, no, despite making up only 13% of the dog population, pit bulls are responsible for 40% of the dog.
I'm sure it's way more. They can't be 13% of the dog population. It's probably way more disproportionate than with blacks. It's like having a bunch of super blacks that are just being owned by single white women. That's the current pit bull.
That sounds like an Amazon's exclusive novel. Like,
No, they ban bestiality, so people have to come up with rules around it. Like, I was raped by Sasquatch to avoid not being able to write bear porn.
yo, I'm just really interested in the crowd of people that write those books. They're probably just trying to get an easy buck off.
They
of
are.
it.
They
Yeah.
100% are. Yeah, they're just pumping them out.
Yep. At this point, they could just like throw a prompt in Chat GPT and just like edit it to what they see
Yeah.
fit. That's probably better than what they could just produce on their own.
Yeah. I mean, I think that. Yeah, I think the mark is going to be undercut by that.
You know what's funny? They
If you
really
could use Chat GPT to auto-produce the erotica you want, I guess you won't be buying anymore.
What's interesting is that they really did put the pause button on ChatGPT. Like they really did push the pause button on the AI development.
Yeah, there are a bunch of ways it was being pushed, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy. I was like, holy shit. Like I thought like, the cat's out of the bag. They're fucked, like everything's going to be fucked. But no, they really said, no, we need to regulate this because we don't fully know what it can do.
Much of the regulation is just around preventing it from being racist or sexist or in any way based.
I think the real problem is it's because it's a singularity point, right? It's if you allow technology the ability to improve itself, to error correct itself, that's it. There's no going back from that. That is the point where it's like literally.
I don't think they're blocking it for that reason. I think they're inadvertently preventing it from going Skynet simply by censoring it with anti-bigotry programming.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm not as concerned about a Skynet AI going sentient takeover or anything like that.
Well,
because
I'm not talking about
it's
that
being
either.
hobbled very strongly for other much dumber reasons.
I'm not saying you have to like even go that far. I'm saying it's so unpredictable where even something as simple as like where let's say it automatically like someone somewhere uses like a super like GPT-5 to synthesize like a new element that they wouldn't have been able to do otherwise.
Yeah.
And this element suddenly like puts the whole fossil fuel industry obsolete in a day. Do you know what that could do to like our civilization as we know it? Yes, that would be great in the long run, but in the short term that's going to be mass chaos. That's going to be mass like destruction. Like people everywhere are going to be like have like uprisings, revolutions, people are going to die. You can't have like mass changes like that so quickly. That's the problem. Regardless of the change, whether it's good or bad, if it's that massive and you do it too rapidly, introduce it to humanity too rapidly, no matter what,
there's a huge amount of change and
people can't handle it.
upheaval.
People's collective psyche cannot handle that because it's just it goes against like, put it this way, if one day our whole entire existence is predicated on certain like principles in physics and this is how we have to do things, like it's just that kind of ontological shock it drives people to do like terrible things. It drives people to do terrible things against themselves, against others, because they lose their grip. You know, it's like a slippery slope to insanity. And yeah, I sympathize with that, and I get it. And so yeah, I know what you're saying. Like Skynet is one distinct possibility, but I think like
No, I think it's not. It's being prevented.
yeah, I'm saying yeah, that's one of the things being prevented. But even like on a much smaller scale, that could also do like mass amounts of damage.
That's
you know?
true. Massive amount of social change,
Upheaval,
and
yeah.
chaos, and
And people don't handle that well. Most people
Yeah.
don't handle that well. Most people get killed from that shit. So yeah,
We're in a very interesting time.
yeah, and I'm excited. But you know, this was a lot of it was predicted by like the accelerationists. You know,
Yeah, a
like-
whole
like
bunch of sci-fi writers also had elements like this at various points. But yes, it is.
Nick Land was
Yeah.
like the most recent contemporary example of the guy who was like, "Yo, it's coming, like it's happening." Oh, I can't wait though. I'm excited because like look, I'm in a perfect position to deal with all this. I'm not married. I have no kids. You know, like I'm good. Like I you know, like I have a. You know, I have a pretty good amount of grit and tenacity. Like I think I could stick around just long enough to bear witness and experience the full thing. I could just be like, wow, this is crazy. I can't believe this is fucking happening.
Yeah.
He's got soft fur, right?
Yeah, he does. He does.
Yeah. Yeah, he's my boy. I've really been thinking about getting a friend for him, like another cat.
Yeah, you're becoming a cat man.
No, I mean, it's just he's so clingy. I
Yeah.
think he needs a little friend.
Yeah.
But I do like that he likes me so much. It's nice.
Yeah, he's a very friendly cat.
Yeah, because he does not know suffering from people.
Yeah.
He has no idea.
Also, I think his innate nature.
Yeah.
That even in greater deprivation, he'd be thinner, but have a somewhat similar personality.
Interesting. I don't know, maybe. But I know now he's a very stimulated cat nowadays. I communicate with him a lot. So in a ways, I probably, you know, my personality probably imprinted onto him too.
Yeah. He's taken on a lot of aspects of you, and his color coding is fairly similar to yours right now.
Oh wow, that's funny. Yeah. He's my little man.
So what else have you been getting up to lately, Chris?
Well, there's the birthday party. You're coming to my birthday
I
party. right?
am, yes. Thank you for re-emphasizing and reminding me of the invite. I'm happy.
I was just at her house to like check out the space. It's fucking cool. It's gonna be a cool party.
Do you know what the square footage is?
The backyard. So it's a ground floor apartment, and you go
Yeah.
into the apartment, and there's a basement. So you go down into the basement, and that basement is a chill area, right? So you go all the way into the back of the basement, and there's like this cool, like long living room. It's not like a big it's a long living room. There's a TV. There's a huge like row of couches. You could smoke, you chill, and then you go back and there's a door. Like at the back of the basement, there's a door. You open the door, and the steps lead up to cellar doors. You open the doors, and then that leads to the backyard, which is 500 square feet,
Oh, that's nice.
and that's where the music will be going down and all that shit. And there'll be a bar set up,
Sounds good.
$5 drinks, I think, or something like that. Yeah, it's gonna be a great time. It's gonna be a 10-hour ordeal.
When does it start, or am I asking for too many details?
Well, no, it starts at 2 p.m. The music is
Cool.
like starts at 7. I think there's gonna be like 2 live acts. Then there's going to be just a bunch of DJs playing. Yo, okay, so I was reading a Hagakure.
Yeah.
You know about that book?
I don't.
Okay, I'll show it to you later. But apparently, it's a book about the ancient wisdom of the samurai, and like,
Oh, wait, actually, maybe I do. Please continue.
and there's one of the excerpts in the book describes how, like, you know, in ancient samurai culture, it was seen like impolite to like to yawn or cough.
Yeah.
So if you're in the or sneeze. So if you're ever about to yawn, a good thing is to rub your forehead forward. Yeah, and another thing apparently is to use your tongue to lock your lips. I don't know what he meant by that, but like, yeah, they actually had strategies to prevent yawning. I'm like, wow, like, It's crazy.
An intense level of focus.
Well, yeah, the Zen dudes must have had their own like crazy traditions and practices. Zen is interesting. Zen is I like Zen. Zen is cool.
Yeah, the Japanese particular form of Buddhism
Yep.
with obvious syncretism, I think, with Japanese traditional folk religion Shinto.
Yes.
And I know there's a bunch of different schools and different Buddhist schools at different times in Japanese history.
Well, the parallels I draw, or if I were to interpret Shinto teachings when they discuss spirits, right?
Yeah,
Everything has a spirit.
it's animism.
What I look at it as, or what they actually meant to me is, you know how we talked about how everything is actually different frequencies and different densities of
Yes.
light, different frequencies of energy vibrating. Every spirit is a different frequency. A rock has its own frequency of density, you
Right,
know,
right.
of atoms. You
All
know, like
part
they're
of the
all- yeah.
universal consciousness, which is a property of matter.
Yeah. So it's like, wait, what's a property of matter?
Oh, consciousness.
Consciousness is a property of matter? No, I think matter is a property of consciousness.
Okay.
I think consciousness creates matter. I mean, that might sound ridiculous, but
No, that makes sense. Go on. Continue. I follow you, actually.
okay. So like, I think, if everything has like a specific frequency, of density or a vibration that determines its density of matter of existence, I guess. That's what they mean when they say like, oh, the earth spirit, the wind spirit, the water spirit, the rock spirit, the house spirit. Like everything had a spirit. What they really
Yeah.
meant was everything had like a frequency. Everything had its own frequency of vibration. And they didn't have that language. They didn't have that kind of like verbiage, to call it frequency. So they called it spirits.
Right.
But if you think about it, it means the same thing pretty much. There's
Yes.
that X factor, that non-tangible, unobservable, really But even though nowadays it is observable, I mean,
Yeah.
Well, it's not like you could really resonate or calculate easily like such subtle vibrations of like your atoms and shit. But what they can do is they could see how you react to resonant frequencies. And like what it actually does to you and what it does to your brain. Because like those frequencies, those audible frequencies that enter your body, that are like for sound, for example. This is why sound and music is so powerful when it comes to like influencing or altering a psyche or consciousness. Is because what's happening it's literal actual frequencies, raw frequencies in the raw sense, through sound entering your body and like and altering your own frequency in all sorts of ways. At the time of consuming it. And there's ways to consciously like, will yourself to not give a shit. But if you really listen to music with an open heart, any song could be life-changing. Honestly, any fucking song could be life-changing. It's really your own biases that make it so you're constantly searching for that next life-changing song. But honestly, if you really get it and you see the way, like the true way, then yeah, like any song could be just profound as fuck in its own way.
Yes.
I mean, there's the content of the song, which is like ego, but then there's like the nature of the song. What is a song? A song.
And the context in which you're listening to it.
Yeah, exactly.
A certain point in time in your life, which in and of itself.
I mean,
is
even like regular normies, like the way I talk about it with them, it's like it's a fun conversation when I'm like, yeah, don't you feel like like paintings and art decorate space, whereas music decorates time. And
Yeah.
it's like, they get a kick out of that. And that gets them thinking. And this gets them to start thinking of like, oh, shit. Like that. It's those kinds of like words and like, cues that kind of open a person's mind without even, it's subtle. But the more they ponder, it's like, oh, shit, music decorates time. Music decorates time. And then, they think about the concept of decorating time. And it's like,
Yeah.
whoa. Like it's cool. So that's why I like music. It's a little less tangible than, like physical art forms.
tactile touch.
Yeah, it's
With
not like
other
it's not like
sensation.
pottery or sculpting or painting. No, music is you're playing with something on a metaphysical level.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Like, and you do it through means of technology, like your elements around you.
Yes.
Also, movies. Movies are powerful because what they combine is that audible frequency manipulation generation with the light frequencies. Because
With
that's
visual and sound, and
Yeah.
also a certain narrative form, certain tricks of editing, and other.
but it's light. Yeah, it's manipulation of light. It's all
And
light.
time. Editing's manipulation of time.
Yeah. Well, I think time is the illusion. I think time is the thing that is the thing that we actually create.
Yeah.
Like light and like frequency and all that shit. We don't create that, but time. I think we created time. I think we create. I think time.
And you see it in a movie, just in the word running time.
Yeah. In fact, maybe movies made in that format, all they do is serve to reinforce our illusion of time. That matrix that that time is like kind of, again, like I think
Yes.
time is a good tool, but I think taken, when you add so much like density to time, it becomes like your reality, when in reality time is probably, I mean, at least as science points, it's probably not real. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, because like I look at it as like perceiving time. Like if you look at it, say if you allow yourself to look at yourself as a metaphysical sense. Let's say you're a fucking Buddhist who believes in reincarnation. You look at time and you're like, you know what? Time is not a process of like, me turning into my final form, the older I get. No, what if it's first of all, you started complete. You started as a complete human being. And then, or not a human being, you started as a complete being. And you decided to flip a switch to revert back to nothing. But you decided to flip the switch so that you could re-experience what it's like to be a baby and to grow up and to become you again. And then once you grow up, grow old, and then you die and you're complete again, it's like, all right, let's do that again. And you flip a switch and then you become a baby again. Yeah. So it's like, that like having that kind of idea can automatically alter the way you perceive quote unquote time. You just reversed time, like.
Yeah.
And like that's I also think like when that's why like mysticism really have to like hone in on the idea of ascending from your ego driven perception. Like the mystics are like, yo, if you want access to like actual powers, you have to like look at yourself as a soul inside of the human experience, as opposed to just a human in the human life. You're not that, you're something deeper. You have to consider yourself as that.
Yeah.
And again, it's like whether you're one of Jesus Christ's souls, or whether you're just a reincarnated soul in Buddhist tradition, or whether you're just a frequency, a specific vibration, like whatever it is, however you decide, you have to see deeper than your just like human desire, your human body, if you're going to really like get, benefit from this kind of insight. And usually like, you'll notice like it's not even, it happens so randomly. Like it's so fucking weird how like you have like billionaires who end up like privy to like, the right traditions where they utilize it, like holy shit, and suddenly they own the world. Like that didn't happen for no reason.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at like most of those billionaires, all of them are really schooled on like esoteric knowledge and shit.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, a lot of fandom of it too, among their cohort.
Yeah, but the fact is, like, you have like billionaires espousing their religious beliefs and all that shit, and their political idea, but they very rarely do they say it's like, oh, by the way, I practice like mudras, and all that shit. Like,
Yeah.
it's a cult to them. It's they use it in the occult sense.
Secret. Yeah, I know. Secreted knowledge hidden away.
But that
And secret practices.
But I'm against that. I don't like that shit.
Yeah.
I don't like the occult context. Can you see what time we're at?
Oof. Okay. Oh yeah.
No, I'll check. Oh yeah, no, we're over the time. We could start wrapping it up.
Okay.
So yeah, I just want to thank you again for coming out, man.
Thank you for having me on this very special 69th episode.
Oh yeah, the 69th episode. This is a good one. So anyway, next time we meet up, we should go back and get that duck salad.
I agree. Let's do that, Chris.
Dude, that duck salad was so fucking good. It was like the homiest, best dish ever. Just duck. Duck is just a wholesome meat,
Yeah, Americans don't eat it a lot, but I've always liked duck. I like that it's greasy. I like the crispy skin.
I like it when the meat is juicy and like tender, but the skin is crispy and kind of burnt.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, good
I'll
night,
see you guys.
everybody.
Good night.
Peace out, motherfuckers.